Hello and welcome to the 5th module in the Community Empowerment chapter of the MSMIT, a tool that offers practical guidance for implementing comprehensive HIV and STI programs for gay, bisexual and other men who have sex with men. This training is brought to you by the MSMGF, the Global Forum on Men Who Have Sex with Men and HIV. In this 5th and final module, titled Monitoring Progress, we introduce monitoring and evaluation, sometimes called M&E, in the context of community empowerment initiatives in communities of gay, bisexual and other men who have sex with men. After completing this module, you should have a clear understanding of 1. Monitoring and evaluation and why it is important to successful programming. 2. Considerations when planning a system for MSM-led community empowerment initiatives. 3. Levels of measurement, central, state, district, etc. And 4. Example indicated for measurement of MSM-led community empowerment initiatives. With these goals in mind, let's begin. In the last module, we looked at the core elements that make up community empowerment, as well as some ways to achieve them. At this point, you may be wondering why measurement is important and how it relates to community empowerment. When designing and implementing any initiative from the very beginning stages of planning, there should be a mechanism in place to monitor and evaluate the program's work in a community. A monitoring and evaluation system takes the guesswork out of understanding the effectiveness of a program. At any given time, it gives a snapshot of the degree to which a program is meeting its goals. It also gives program managers a sense for what is working and what isn't, so informed changes can be made when required. In MSM community empowerment initiatives, monitoring can track services provided and the health outcomes achieved in a given community. But it shouldn't stop there. Monitoring should also measure the extent to which the community empowerment process itself is occurring. Frequently, program indicators measure quantitative outputs, such as individuals contacted and condoms distributed, without documenting the big picture impact the work is having on societal power dynamics as a whole. Here are some specific examples of what to measure in order to monitor community empowerment in relation to HIV prevention, treatment, care and support, and health services. Notice that these are not looking at numbers, but rather are a measure of the process of community empowerment in itself. Monitoring the progress of community empowerment initiatives requires early and methodical planning and a fairly good understanding of the process. Community-led programs and organisations should consider partnering with trusted evaluators or researchers who have experience with monitoring and evaluation. Advocates should also consider developing theories of change or using logic models or log frames to evaluate their processes and intended outcomes. Here, we will assume you have a basic working knowledge of monitoring and evaluation, and we'll look at measuring community empowerment in more detail. Some examples of indicators for measuring empowerment are presented here. When designing a community empowerment monitoring and evaluation framework, it is important to remember that it occurs at a number of levels. A multi-level approach gives a more accurate picture of program workings and progress. All of the levels relevant to a given project should be reflected in the indicators that have been framed for measurement. Some examples of different monitoring and evaluation levels include central, state or provincial, district or county, municipality or sub-municipality, and frontline worker. For example, if a program is working to create safe communal spaces and establish and sustain organisations of MSM at the frontline level, an indicator for measurement could be percentage of MSM who report reduced self-stigma, and number of organisations run by MSM, and so on. Take a moment to check your understanding. True or false? The main purpose of monitoring programs is to measure results. False. That is only half of the picture. Monitoring and evaluation also gives program managers a sense for what is working and what isn't, so informed changes can be made when required along the way. Here are 4 possible domains for measuring community empowerment: Along with each domain, you will see a list of corresponding example questions that can potentially surface the measurement data. The first is collective efficacy, which is a community's belief in its power to work together to bring about positive change. Some questions to tease out this information are: how confident are MSM community members that their community can work together to keep each other safe, increase condom use, speak up for their rights, and improve their own lives? The second is collective agency, which is the choice, control, and power communities have to act for themselves to claim their right and hold others accountable for their rights. Questions to surface this data include: how often in the past months have community members negotiated with or stood up to police, neighbours, family members, friends, co-workers, employers in order to help other MSM? The third is collective action, which is the ability to run strategic and organised activities by community members that increase the community's visibility in wider society. Questions for this indicator include: did the group or organisation come together to demand equitable access to HIV services, introduction of PrEP, lower HIV drug pricing, decriminalisation of same-sex behaviours or relationships, legal protections against violence, services that are more sensitive to the needs of men who have sex with men, improved funding for community-led services, and inclusion in national AIDS planning processes. Introduction of PrEP. And the fourth is participation in public events. Questions to obtain this information include: in the past 6 months, how often did the group participate in a public rally, demonstration, meeting with policymakers, consultation, marches or parades, health fairs, at the risk of revealing that they are MSM? Before moving on, please consider the questions presented in this self-check and assess your understanding. This fifth module brings us to the end of the Community Empowerment chapter of the MSMIT. To review, in this module we have presented some key issues to keep in mind monitoring and evaluating MSM community empowerment initiatives. In addition to measuring quantitative, concrete outputs, such as number of condoms and lubes distributed, it is equally important to measure less tangible programme outputs, such as collective agency and action. Congratulations, you made it! We encourage you to continue learning and explore the other chapters in this tool.